Case number IT 9829/1I, the prosecutor versus Dragomir Milošević.
Thank you, Madam Registrar. Mr. Milošević, can you hear me in a language you understand?
Da.
Yes.
Please be seated, Mr. Milošević. I'd like to have the appearances. Prosecution first.
Good morning, Your Honor. For the prosecution, we have here trial attorney Prashanti Mahindaratne, and my name is Hildegard Özretzlaff, and we are accompanied by the case manager Lakshmi Valpeta.
Thank you, Madam Özretzlaff. For the prosecution. For the defense, I apologize.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Juge.
Good morning, Your Honor. I represent the accused this morning, General Milošević. My name is Stéphane Bourgon, attorney at law from Montreal, Canada. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Bourgon. Mr. Milošević, I'd first like to explain to you, you may remain seated, it's not necessary to stand if I address you.
Thank you.
I'd first like to explain to you the purpose of this hearing this morning. The first thing I'll have to do this morning is to satisfy myself that your right to counsel is respected. I see that you're represented by Mr. Bourgon for this initial hearing. Therefore, I take it that this right is duly observed. The second purpose of this hearing is that I satisfy myself that you're confronted with the charges that are brought against you and that you understand them. And the third purpose of this morning is to inform you that you'll be called upon to enter a plea within 30 days from now on. I already established that you're assisted by counsel this morning. That might not be counsel for the whole of the proceedings still to come, but Mr. Bourgon will take care that you're duly represented during this initial hearing, and certainly will look after it that once he stops his work, that you're in good hands as far as representation by counsel is concerned. The next issue is to satisfy myself that you're aware of the charges brought against you. First of all, did you receive a copy of the indictment in a language you understand, Mr. Milošević?
Da.
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity to discuss it with counsel?
U detalje.
Not in detail. In fact, not today. I did not.
Mr. Bourgon.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, if I may, on behalf of the accused, General Milošević, I can confirm that this morning I have had a first interview with Mr. Milošević, that he has received the indictment and that he understands the contents of the charges against him. I have also explained him the nature of the charges. However, it must be noted that in one interview of less than 1 hour, it is sometimes difficult to explain the ramifications of all the charges. However, I feel confident to say before you this morning that he understands sufficiently the indictment in order to proceed with the initial appearance. I might also add that, Your Honor, that I have explained to Mr. Milošević the procedure that would be followed this morning, and that I have confirmed with him that since his transfer to the custody of the International Tribunal on Friday the 3rd of December, he has been placed at the United Nations detention unit, where he has been well treated, and he has no complaint whatsoever to this day, and he is ready to proceed with the initial appearance. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Bourgon. Mr. Milošević, you've heard the words spoken by counsel. Could you confirm what he just said, especially that you have an understanding of what is in the indictment?
Da, časni sudija.
Yes, Your Honor. I absolutely did understand, including the words of my counsel, and everything is clear to me.
Then my next question is, would you like the indictment to be read out to you in its entirety? Mr. Bourgon.
Thank you, Your Honor. On behalf of Mr. Milošević, this was an issue that was discussed with Mr. Milošević, and he does not wish the indictment to be read and waives his right for indictment to be read. However, he has expressed that if the trial chamber would like to proceed, that he would have no problems whatsoever with the reading of the indictment.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'd rather than suggest the following solution, that I briefly set out what is in the indictment, because it's for Mr. Milošević to be confronted with the indictment, be confronted with the charges brought against him, and to make up his mind as how to plead either today or at a later stage. And at the same time, the public should be informed about the charges brought against Mr. Milošević. Just I'll give a very brief summary then of the charges brought against you, Mr. Milošević. Leaving out all details, we find the details in the written text of the indictment, but you're charged for your acts and conduct as the commander of the Sarajevo-Romania Corps between the 10th of August 1994 and the 21st of November 1995, and it's split up in 7 charges. First, under count 2, you're charged as a commander of the Sarajevo-Romania Corps for having conducted a protracted campaign of shelling and sniping upon the civilian population, thus inflicting terror and suffering upon that population. I say in count 2 because you are, in this indictment, you are co-accused with Stanislav Galić. So therefore some of the counts specifically address him, whereas other counts address you, like the one I just summarized, that is count 2. Then in counts 9 till 11, which are again addressing you and not Mr. Galić, counts 9 until 11, it's especially the campaign of sniping the indictment is focusing on, a campaign of sniping resulting in the killing and wounding of individuals. A few examples of those sniping incidents are set out in Schedule 3 of the indictment. You find 20 of them, some of them even on the same date, such as 2 incidents on the 6th of March 2005. Then in counts 12 to 14, the indictment is focusing on the campaign of shelling, again resulting in killing and wounding of individuals. And in Schedule 4 to the indictment, some 23 examples, just by way of example, therefore, not as a exhaustive enumeration of what happened, are mentioned. You are not only charged for having having planned, instigated, ordered, committed, or otherwise aided and abetted in the planning and the preparation or the execution of the campaign of shelling and sniping against the civilian population, which is a responsibility under Article 7.1 of the statute of this tribunal, but you're also charged with being for being responsible for the acts and omissions of your subordinates, knowing or having reason to know that these subordinates were about to commit the crimes I mentioned before, or had done so, you failing to take responsible steps, reasonable steps to prevent such acts or to punish the perpetrators thereof, which is usually called command responsibility under Article 7.3 of the statute. This is just to summarize the charges brought against you. I take it that from having read the indictment, you would agree with me that this is the main core of the charges brought against you. Is that clear to you, and do you agree? Mr. Milošević, I see you're nodding yes, but for the transcript, nodding doesn't appear. The interpreters cannot translate your nodding.
The interpreters could not hear the answer. Yes, I understand it fully. And I know that the indictment against me contains these counts.
Thank you. Then, Mr. Milošević, you'll be called to... yes, Mr. Bourgon, you would like to...
Thank you, Your Honor. At this stage, I would simply like to confirm that further to my initial interview with Mr. Milošević, of course, I have explained to him that this indictment concerns 2 accused, as well as the fact that there are 12 charges in the indictment. What is important on behalf of Mr. Milošević this morning, Your Honor, is to confirm that, of
Let me
course,
just try to find out.
1...
12 charges. I have 7 from Mr. Milošević.
Well, there are
and 7
12
from
charges altogether on the indictment related to both accused. And what I would like to confirm this morning is that
I thought
in
about
terms of
14, or am I?
charges that I have, that counts 1, 3 to 5, and 6 to 8 do
Then
not
we have-
relate
Yes.
to the accused, Mr. Milošević, and that only counts 2, 9 to 11, and 6 to 8 apply to Mr. Milošević.
I'm afraid
Sorry,
that you
9
have
to 11 and 12 to 14.
Yes, so that makes 14 together, not 12. Yes. Yes, therefore I read the numbers to him and specifically mentioned what counts address him. Then, Mr. Milošević, you'll be called upon to enter a plea, which means that you're invited to express yourself on whether you're guilty or not guilty within 30 days. The plea you enter will have a significant impact on the kind of proceedings to follow. That is, if you plead guilty, then usually we'll only hear further evidence on sentencing, whereas if you plead not guilty, all the evidence will be heard, which is presented by the prosecution, and you'll get an opportunity to present your evidence, to present your case. I'm not pressing you in any way to enter a plea today, but if you would prefer to enter a plea today, then you're entitled to do so. At the same time, I want to emphasize that it will be good to consider that well and to discuss it thoroughly with counsel before you would decide to enter a plea, whether it will be guilty or not guilty. Is there any preference as far as the moment is concerned?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a matter that was discussed with Mr. Milošević this morning, and on his behalf, I can inform you that he is ready to enter a plea this morning on the counts against him.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Then, on the basis of the general understanding of the indictment, I will now invite Madam Registrar to read out aloud counts 2, 9 to 11, and 12 to 14 of the indictment.
Count 2, infliction of terror. From about 10 August 1994 to 21 November 1995, Dragomir Milošević, as commander of Bosnian Serb forces, comprising or attached to the Sarajevo-Romagna Corps, conducted a protracted campaign of shelling and sniping upon civilian areas of Sarajevo and upon the civilian population, thereby inflicting terror and mental suffering upon its civilian population. By his acts and omissions, Dragomir Milošević is responsible for Count 2, violations of the laws or customs of war, unlawfully inflicting terror upon civilians, as set forth in Article 51 of Additional Protocol 1 and Article 13 of Additional Protocol 2 to the Geneva Conventions of 1949, punishable under Article 3 of the Statute of the Tribunal.
Mr. Milošević, how do you plead to count 2 of the indictment?
Introduced.
Should I stand up?
May I do so? Yes, please.
Nisam kriv.
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Then I record the plea of not guilty on count 2. Madam Registrar, would you please read out counts 9 to 11 and stop after 9, please?
Counts 9 to 11, sniping. Between 10 August 1994 and 21 November 1995, Dragomir Milošević, as commander of Bosnian Serb forces, comprising or attached to the Sarajevo-Romagna Corps, conducted a coordinated and protracted campaign of sniper attacks upon the civilian population of Sarajevo, killing and wounding a large number of civilians of all ages and both sexes, such attacks by their nature involving the deliberate targeting of civilians with direct fire weapons. Specific instances of these attacks include, by way of representative allegations, those matters set forth in the 3rd schedule to this indictment. By his acts and omissions, Dragomir Milošević is responsible for Count 9, crimes against humanity, murder, punishable under Article 5A of the Statute of the Tribunal.
Mr. Milošević, how do you plead in respect of count 9, crimes against humanity, murder?
Nisam
Not guilty, Your Honor.
I do record the plea of not guilty on count 9. Madam Registrar, count 10, please.
Count 10, crimes against humanity, inhumane acts other than murder, punishable under Article 5I of the Statute of the Tribunal.
Mr. Milošević, how do you plead in respect of count 10?
nisam kriv.
Not guilty, Your Honor.
I record the plea of not guilty on count 10. Madam Register, count 11, please.
Count 11, violations of the laws or customs of war, attacks on civilians as set forth in Article 51 of Additional Protocol 1 and Article 13 of Additional Protocol 2 to the Geneva Conventions of 1949, punishable under Article 3 of the Statute of the Tribunal.
Mr. Milošević, how do you plead in respect of count 11?
Nisam
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Your not guilty plea is recorded in respect of count 11. Madam Register, would you please read the introduction to counts 12 to 14 and then count 12?
Counts 12 to 14, shelling. Between 10 August 1994 and 21 November 1995, Dragomir Milošević, as commander of Bosnian Serb forces, comprising or attached to the Sarajevo-Romagna Corps, conducted a coordinated and protracted campaign of artillery and mortar shelling onto civilian areas of Sarajevo and upon its civilian population. The campaign of shelling resulted in thousands of civilians being killed or injured. Specific instances of this shelling include, by way of representative allegations, the matters set forth in the fourth schedule to this indictment. By his acts and omissions, Dragomir Milošević is responsible for count 12, crimes against humanity, murder, punishable under Article 5A of the Statute of the Tribunal.
Mr. Milošević, how do you plead in respect of count 12?
nisam kriv.
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Madam Register, would you please read count 13?
Count 13, crimes against humanity, inhumane acts other than murder, punishable under Article 5I of the Statute of the Tribunal.
Mr. Milošević, how do you plead in respect of count 13?
Nisam
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Your not guilty plea is recorded in respect of count 13. Madam Register, count 14, please.
Count 14, violations of the laws or customs of war, attacks on civilians as set forth in Article 51 of Additional Protocol 1 and Article 13 of Additional Protocol 2 to the Geneva Conventions of 1949, punishable under Article 3 of the Statute of the Tribunal.
Mr. Milošević, how do you plead in respect of count 14?
nisam kriv.
Not guilty, Your Honor.
I record the plea of not guilty on count 14. Please proceed, Mr. Milošević.
Hvala.
We are coming at the end of this initial appearance, but I'd like to ask you, Mr. Milošević, although Mr. Bourgon said already something about it, I'd like to ask you whether your detention situation forces you to make any submissions or observations.
Everything is fine. I have no comments or complaints to make or any additional requests. And I have nothing else to say.
That I would like to ask you a similar thing in respect of your health, and if you would prefer not to discuss any health related issue in public, we could turn into a private session, so it's up to you. I don't know whether you have anything to say in respect of your health, but if so, you may request the private session to do that.
Nema potrebe za...
There is no need for a private session. My health is fine, except for some minor problems that I have because of my age. But I have nothing else to say in this respect.
Thank you, Mr. Milošević. Then I'd like to address the parties and to ask whether there's anything to be raised at this moment, apart from what was already raised.
Not from the prosecution side, Your Honor.
Prosecution. Mr. Bourgon.
Thank you, Your Honor. There is one matter I wish to raise at this time concerning the indictment. The indictment, as you will note, Your Honor, is accompanied by 3 schedules. There are schedule, or what is called the 3rd schedule, which applies to count number 2, as well as to counts 9 to 11, and which apply to Mr. Milošević. There is also schedule, or the 4th schedule, which applies to count 2, as well as to counts 12 to 14. And then, Your Honor, there is the 2nd schedule, which on the copy that I have, which is a copy which is drawn from the internet and may not be the official copy, but on a copy that I have, it says that this schedule applies to count number 1, and the name of Mr. Milošević is not found in this schedule. I therefore take it, Mr. President, Your Honor, that schedule number 2 does not apply to this indictment, and I would like to have an order to that effect. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes. Mr. Urts, it is, of course, a bit surprising. Yes, perhaps you, if you'd like to make any observation.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm a little bit surprised because we have actually 4 schedules, and from the head of the Schedule 1, it is clear that this is related to Mr. Galić, and it's Schedule 2 also related to Mr. Galić. So there should actually be no confusion that only Schedule 3 and Schedule 4 relate to Mr. Milošević.
I think that's it seems to be perfectly clear, because all the in the charges brought specifically against Mr. Milošević, we only find reference to Schedules 3 and 4. And if you're surprised that nevertheless we have 2 attached as well, of course, Schedule 2, I think clearly indicates that it only concerns Mr. Galić. I think that that's clear both from the internet version and from the original version. But then, of course, the question remains why Schedule 1 is not there. I think, as a matter of fact, that Schedule 1 is not public, and that Schedule 1 is confidential. So therefore, in this public version of the indictment, Mr. Bourgon, Schedule 1 relating to Mr. Galić is not present. Number 2, which is a non-confidential schedule to the indictment, you find it there, but does not relate to Mr. Milošević. And the Schedules 3 and 4, both being public and both referred to in the parts of the indictment specific for Mr. Milošević. So therefore, I think there's no confusion whatsoever. I think also if you look at the dates and if you look at how the indictment is structured in terms of time, that it becomes perfectly clear that it's only Annexes 3 and 4 that relate to Mr. Milošević. Ms. Urts-Retzlaff, I take it this is a proper understanding of the indictment.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Bourgon, under those circumstances, is there any need, apart from this clarification, to take any action, or is it sufficient to have this on record?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is absolutely sufficient to have it on record. I was just noted that there was this second schedule, which just did not relate to Mr. Milošević, and I wanted to make it clear that those incidents would not at some time be then held against Mr. Milošević at any future time. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, that's. He's not charged. This is not part of the charges brought against him. If that is a proper way of expressing it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. And I did choose my words quite deliberately, Mr. Bourgon. And you also noted that they're different from the words you used. Yes. Then, if there's nothing else to be raised at this moment, we'll adjourn.
All right.